Shalom, everyone. Let's talk a little bit about Freemasonry. Freemasonry, to sum it up in a nutshell, is slow indoctrination into Satan worship. Now, most people who are involved in Masonry do not know this because the lower levels are deceived every step of the way by the higher level Freemasons. I have read this. I have done my homework on Freemasonry. I learned back in early 2012 that it is Luciferic just by doing simple, honest research into the matter. It is not difficult to find these things out in this day and age of information. Now, Masonry is a very powerful and highly influential force or institution in our society and indeed worldwide. It is a primary vehicle, if not the primary vehicle, through which this satanic conspiracy, this satanic agenda against man and against our Creator Yahuwah has advanced over at least the last 200 years. I'm going to read you some quotes here from Albert Pike and Manly P. Hall. Pike and Hall are probably the two most influential and preeminent Freemasons in American history. This is from Manly P. Hall from his book, The Lost Keys of Freemasonry. He wrote, "When the Mason learns that the key to the warrior on the block is the proper application of the dynamo of living power, he has learned the mystery of his craft. The seething energies of Lucifer are in his hands, and before he may step onwards and upwards, he must prove his ability to properly apply this energy." Okay? Now, Albert Pike spoke to, these were instructions given to the 23 Supreme Councils of the world, and he said, "The Masonic religion should be, by all of us initiates of the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine." He also said, "The true and pure philosophical religion is the belief in Lucifer, the equal of Adonai. But Lucifer, God of light and God of good, is struggling for humanity against Adonai, the God of darkness and evil." Now, when he refers to Adonai here, this is who most people refer to as God, the Creator. However, his name is not God, his name is Yahuwah. Okay, now, based on what we just read there, this is the exact lie that was told to Eve in the garden. Genesis chapter 3, verses 4 and 5. "And the serpent said to the woman, 'You shall certainly not die, for Elohim knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be like Elohim, knowing good and evil.'" That's Genesis 3, 4 and 5. Prior to this, the Nahesh, the serpent, Satan, tells Eve, hey, why don't you eat of this tree of the knowledge of good and evil? And she says, we are told not to eat of that tree. We are told that we will die. And that's when he steps in and says, you shall certainly not die. Okay? So this is pretty much what this title, the title of this video is about, the shackles of Freemasonry, because Freemasons are shackled in deceit. They believe this lie. And essentially, just basically what Albert Pike said, it's a reversal of what the truth really is, that Lucifer is the good guy and Yahuwah is the bad guy. And that's basically exactly what Satan told Eve in the Garden of Eden right there. Now, just like to bring out one more quote here. This is by a Freemason of the 33rd degree named Domenico Margiotta. And he wrote, "For in no matter what rite," that's R-I-T-E, There are different rites in Freemasonry, for instance, the Scottish Rite, the York Rite, and the Palladian Rite. Just different sects, basically. Okay? For in no matter what rite, the great architect of the universe is not the God worshipped by Christians. Okay? So those three quotes right there, that should be enough to give any Mason pause as to what they're involved with. Because, of course, many do not know these things. These things are hidden from them. However, again, in this day and age of information, if somebody like me can find these things out, anybody can find these things out. But who really has a thirst for understanding and knowledge? Okay? Just real quick, I'd like to read Genesis 3:22 here because, while we're talking about Freemasonry, Skull and Bones, there's a lot of very influential and very powerful people in positions of power in our society who are Skull and Bones members. And if you look at their logo, they've got an actual skull and bones with the number 322 prominently displayed right below this. Okay, so this is what I think 322 is referencing. I think that it is referencing Genesis 3:22. So let's read that. And Yahuwah Elohim said, "See, the man has become like one of us, to know good and evil. And now, lest he put out his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever." And that's what I think that it is about right there. They want to obtain immortality, okay, and they're seeking to do this by way of transhumanism, okay, and by way of this nanotechnology right now. Transhumanism is a big subject. Elon Musk talks about this a lot. I really am not a fan of Elon Musk, but this is what I think that 322 is referencing, because what they want to do is they want to obtain immortality. They believe this lie, okay, that Satan told from the very beginning, and they want to bypass our Creator. They want to bypass Yahushua, his son, the Messiah, because he says, no one is going to come to the Father except through him. But they seek to do this their own way, in a different way. They want to avoid and bypass judgment that is coming to them. Okay, now, the system that we are living under right now is described very well by this former Congressman, Lawrence Patton McDonald. I love to read this quote, but it is very, very pertinent, very relevant, and very hard-hitting. He said, "The drive of the Rockefellers and their allies is to create a one-world government, combining supercapitalism and communism under the same tent, all under their control. Do I mean conspiracy? Yes, I do. I am convinced there is such a plot, international in scope, generations old in planning, and incredibly evil in intent." Now that's key right there. International in scope, generations old in planning, incredibly evil in intent. That is a spiritually directed satanic conspiracy. People on their own could not orchestrate such a thing because people are too selfish to do this. This has to be a spiritually directed conspiracy. People simply do not have the means, the wherewithal, or the ability to carry out such a thing in such a sophisticated manner as it has been done and as it is being done today. Again, that's former Congressman Lawrence Patton McDonald that said that. Also, one of the reasons why I read that is because it is through this institution, this secret society of Freemasonry, through which this conspiracy has been carried out and is carried out today. Now, the system that Lawrence Patton McDonald described, and I believe he said this in the 1970s, okay, it's prophesied in the Bible. I'm going to read from some extra biblical books here, books that were removed from the standard canon because they have such great prophecy and such great information in it that they have been removed from standard canon. However, they are out there. They can be found. I have a Sepher, C-E-P-H-E-R. You can get one at sepher.net. That's where you can read these books. This is from the book of 4 Ezra, also known as 2nd Esdras. It's 4 Ezra, chapter 11, verse 40. and it's going to discuss a fourth kingdom or a fourth beast, which is discussed also in Daniel chapter 7. The fourth beast or fourth kingdom is mentioned 4 times in Daniel chapter 7, and it is expounded on in other areas of the word. And here's 4 Ezra chapter 11 verse 40. And the fourth came and overcame all the beasts that were past, and had power over the world with great fearfulness, and over the whole compass of the earth with much wicked oppression. And so long time dwelt he upon the earth with deceit. Okay, also from the book of 4 Ezra, chapter 12, verse 13. Behold, the days will come that there shall rise up a kingdom upon earth, and it shall be feared above all the kingdoms that were before it. Okay, so one manner in which this fourth beast is so powerful and so deceitful and so evil, why it is feared above all others, is because the ruling powers to this day, at this day right now, are international. It is the ruling class is connected internationally. It is not one nation versus another. It is not a localized kingdom. It is a worldwide kingdom, and a primary means by which this is being carried out is Freemasonry. Many people in these key positions of power are Freemasons. Also from the book of 2nd Baruch. This is also in the Sefer, and I believe that this can also be found in the King James 1611. I'm not entirely sure. I think that one of the books by Baruch is. Okay? But I also think that 4 Ezra or 2nd Esdras is indeed found also in the 1611 King James Version. Now, Baruch was a scribe of the prophet Jeremiah, introduced in standard canon in the book of Jeremiah in chapter 36. So here are some of the writings by this scribe, which is described in the book of Jeremiah, and he wrote a lot of amazing stuff. Okay, now this is 2nd Baruch chapter 39, verses 5 and 6, also describing this fourth beast system. And after these things a fourth kingdom will arise, whose power will be harsh and evil, far beyond those which were before it, and it will rule many times as the forests on the plain, and it will hold fast for times, and will exalt itself more than the cedars of Lebanon. And by it the truth will be hidden, and all those who are polluted with iniquity will flee to it, as evil beasts flee and creep into the forest. I just love this description of this system right here. It says, by it the truth will be hidden. Nothing could be truer than that right there. I mean, the world that we live in is based on nothing but fake. You know, every aspect of our society, every aspect of our lives is based on deceiving us in one way, shape, or form, one way or another. That's what it's about. Look at the so-called media. What it really is the ministry of truth. That's what George Orwell wrote in his book, 1984. Education system has nothing to do with education. It is simply called that. It is the indoctrination system. And that's all it's about, to indoctrinate people, destroy their minds, so that they never know their Creator, they never know their Messiah. And that's all it's really about, under the guise of education, of course. Okay, now it says that those who are polluted with iniquity will flee to this system as evil beasts flee and creep into the forest. So those that enjoy living in sin, those that enjoy employing deception and doing these things and making money and serving the system of mammon at the expense of others, okay, they are the ones who are drawn to this system like a magnet. They want to be a part of it. They want to serve it. Okay, so being high-level Freemasons, this is a perfect correlation. This is a perfect match for what is written here. Those who are polluted with iniquity will flee to it. They'll be given power. They'll be given riches. But in the end, it is a losing proposition. Okay, so Freemasonry, they're obsessed with the number 33. There was a great channel which has been taken down, but many people have mirrored this person's videos. The channel was Russian Vids, and he had a lot of great information on many of his videos about how the number 33 was always placed into pop culture, in movies and in television and so forth. And it's things that, most people are not going to notice at all. But when it's pointed out, it's like, sure enough, it's there. They're always, they want to leave their mark. They want to leave their signature in everything that they're doing. And a lot of so-called news stories that come from the mainstream media, this is one way that these occultists and Satanists and Freemasons like to communicate with each other, is through numbers, primarily the number 33. Okay, so why the number 33? Well, Yahuwah, Jesus, our Messiah, died at the age of 33 for one thing. So I think that this definitely has something to do with it. And I think that, basically Freemasonry is throwing out one Messiah in place of their God, which, as what I've just read from Manly P. Hall and Albert Pike, their God is Lucifer. Okay, so I think that is probably it right there. That is one reason. But also, I think that it represents the 1/3 of the fallen angels that were thrown to the earth, and 33 represents 33%, or 1/3 of the fallen angels. And this is what they're saying that they follow without most people knowing it. Again, coded in numerology or numbers. Okay, so Revelation chapter 12, verses 3 and 4. And another sign was seen in the heaven. And see, a great fiery red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns on his heads. And his tail draws 1/3 of the stars of the heaven and throws them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, to devour her child as soon as it was born. Okay, now, when it refers to his tail draws 1/3 of the stars of the heaven and throws them to the earth, when the Bible uses the word, what we see in English as stars, that means messengers or angels. Okay, I'm going to prove that point here right in this very next verse that I'm going to read, Revelation chapter 12, verse 9. And the great dragon was thrown out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who leads all the world astray. He was thrown to the earth, and his messengers were thrown out with him. So there we see 1/3 of messengers who followed Satan, okay, and were deceived by him, 33%. So that is what I think is also a big reason why they use the number 33, why Masonry is obsessed with the number 33 and codes this everywhere, leaving their mark, leaving their signature on so many different things. Okay. Now, unfortunately, like I've said, the institutions in our society are basically run and controlled by Freemasons primarily. But unfortunately, the police are as well. And, of course this would be the case if Freemasonry is the force by which, I have been discussing here. But, for those that are in law enforcement and who may not be Masons, well, their opportunities for advancement are going to be very slim, no matter how qualified they may be. They have to be part of the Masonic Brotherhood in order to advance in the ranks. And being that Freemasonry is what it is, this is one of the big reasons why law enforcement in the United States has failed to stand up to the New World Order. Because their job is really to serve and protect it and the fourth beast and the ruling class. Okay, that is what their job really is. They present themselves as public servants, but really they are beholden to Freemasonry, and many within their ranks are indeed Freemasons. Those that aren't simply aren't going to go anywhere. They're not really going to be part of the big club, but they're going to be encouraged to join. Okay, and they may not know what they're joining. They probably do not. However, they're going to be taking orders from higher level Freemasons on what they do, what they can and cannot investigate. One of the things that they cannot investigate is satanic ritual abuse and how this runs all the way to the highest levels of society. And They are often standing down in regards to sex trafficking. There are some arrests, and there are some raids, and there are some busts made on this note as far as sex trafficking goes. However, most of it are very low-level sex traffickers. It's just like this phony drug war. Okay, they're gonna make a few big busts here and there, but essentially the drugs are allowed to come in, and that's all controlled too. So there is no real drug war, of course, and anybody in law enforcement should know this, unless they are a complete idiot. Okay. But also, and I've spoken about this in several other videos, this program, these worldwide programs of the targeting of individuals and gang stalking and electronic harassment, voice-to-skull technology, very sophisticated sorcery is what it is, but it is ruining people's lives. It coaxes people, the program of targeting and gang stalking and so forth, it's meant to drive people nuts and to kill themselves and to lash out at their perpetrators and commit crimes and then be thrown in jail, or sometimes they are just out and out murdered for these things, and okay, so go to targetedjustice.com, download the affidavit by one of the very, very few in the FBI who is willing to speak out about these crimes of the New World Order, Ted Gunderson. He has a sworn affidavit on this website, Targeted Justice. You can download that and look at that and read that. Very brave man who did this, whereas the rest of the FBI on these matters, who knows, maybe they are beholden to Freemasonry and they serve the fourth beast also. Maybe. Well, I know that they do, and that's why, that's why these crimes against humanity are allowed to go on and on and on. Targeting, satanic ritual abuse, sex trafficking of men, women, and children. Law enforcement's job is not really to stop these things. You might make a few token busts here and there regarding sex trafficking, but for the most part, their job is to protect these enterprises because the ruling class is involved in them. Now, so Freemasonry affords one the luxury of friendship with the world. However, James chapter 4 verse 4 states that friendship with the world is enmity or hostility with Yahuwah, your maker, and my maker. And the reason that is basically he is letting us know here. Now if you read the rest of the world, you read the rest of the word, you know that the world it lies in the hand of the wicked one for now, until Yahushua comes and sets up his own kingdom. But what he means by friendship with the world is friendship with this system of mammon, okay, and friendship with sin, which our entire society encourages at every step of the way. It's encouraging it. It's encouraging you to seek money before understanding, okay, to indulge your flesh, to indulge your carnal nature in a great multitude of different ways, and to go out and to attain status in one way or another, and to be part of organizations, Freemasonry being one, and there are many others. Okay, but this is what is meant by friendship with the world, is enmity with Yahuwah, because you're not walking with him. You're not walking according to his ways. You're walking according to the ways of the world, which is essentially, there's no other way to put it, it is the satanic way. Okay? Now, Matthew chapter 6, verse 24. No one is able to serve two masters, for either he shall hate the one and love the other, or else he shall cleave to the one and despise the other. You are not able to serve Elohim and Mammon. You are not able to serve Yahuwah and Mammon. You are not able to follow Messiah Yahushua and serve Mammon at the same time. Freemasonry, those involved in Freemasonry, you're serving Mammon, especially the high levels. Okay, those at the lower levels who do not know what they're involved with, they take these oaths, and basically, let's say for instance you're in law enforcement. Okay, you're not going to be allowed to do the right thing in a lot of instances. All you're allowed to do is go after street level crime. You're not allowed to go after the real crime at the higher levels of society, where a tremendous amount of evil is taking place by way of satanic ritual abuse and the targeting of people, causing them to kill themselves and to commit crimes. Targetedjustice.com. Go there. Do your own research and homework into this phenomena of targeting. It is an incredible crime against humanity, and there are many out there who are suffering greatly because of this. Okay, also 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 21. Ye cannot drink the cup of Yahuwah and the cup of devils. Ye cannot be partakers of Yahuwah's table and of the table of devils. You can't have one foot here and one foot there. If you're going to serve Yahuwah, if you're going to walk with Messiah and follow him, you've got to do it 100%. You can't do it just a little bit here and a little bit there. Go to church on Sunday, which is not the correct Sabbath day anyway. It is Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. Okay, that's another thing that was changed by this satanic world that we live in. Of course, they're going to change his commandments. Of course, he is going to, tamper with his word and say, no, that's another video. That's another discussion. I don't want to get too off onto that. But the true Sabbath day is Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. Okay, so the fate of those serving mammon, and the fate of the devil, and the fate of organizations that worship Lucifer, such as Freemasonry, is this. Revelation chapter 20, verse 10. And the devil, who led them astray, was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet are. And they shall be tortured day and night forever and ever. Wow. That's not a place I want to be. I'm telling you what. Now, last night, I had a dream. I woke up, and I woke up close to the time that I needed to get up, and I had a dream that I was at a National Guard base. I don't think that the National Guard really has so-called bases, but there's no other way to put it. That's kind of where it was in the dream. It was this giant facility, and I knew that there was a lot of chatter going on about gun confiscation being initiated. Now, this is a real discussion right now based on these psychological operations that are taking place at this high school, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, just recently. Now, these are government-run psyops. Okay. And they are for the purpose, gun control, the attack on the Second Amendment, the attack on the ability for people to defend themselves, their family, and their home is definitely a part of the New World Order agenda. Okay, now, I think that there are multiple reasons why these psyops are pulled off. Okay, I'm not sure so much about this one, but I know it's a government-run operation. But that aside, back to the dream. An older, I'm going to say he was in his early 40s. A National Guardsman comes up. I can tell that he's a little bit older than the rest of them. He looks like he's somewhere between, say, 43, 44, 45, somewhere in there. And I asked him, I said, now, if these orders are given, are you going to participate in gun confiscation? And he just says, yeah. Yeah, of course, I'll follow orders. And he's proud of it. He has no shame whatsoever. But I pointed out to him in the dream, and this is what I wanted to point out. This is why I brought this up, because I want to point out. I pointed out to this man in the dream. I said, if you do that, you are committing armed robbery. Okay? That is exactly what that is. And this is not something that I've ever really heard too many people talk about. It's obvious that it is true. For those in the National Guard, or anybody in our military who was born into this country, or if you're in law enforcement, if you participate in something like gun confiscation, okay, that is armed robbery. You're taking people's stuff at gunpoint because, of course, you're expecting, there might be a few people here and there who are willing to defend their Second Amendment rights to the death and to perhaps shoot it out. And before they give you their guns, they want to give you their bullets instead. Okay? Now, just for the record, I don't have any guns. Okay? But I believe in self-defense. I definitely believe in the defense of others. Okay? But that is what that is. That's armed robbery. Okay? This is also a violation of constitutional rights, needless to say. And anyone in our military or anyone in law enforcement who would participate in such a thing, is nothing but a fraud and a traitor. Okay? That's just how it is. And, these things are coming down the pike. You guys are going to have to make these decisions, okay, about what you're going to do regarding these type of matters. Okay? I encourage anyone in law enforcement, National Guard, or whatever, stand up to the New World Order. Take a stand for what is right. Okay? Don't follow mindless, unlawful orders. Okay? You have an obligation not to follow unlawful orders. Okay? Committing armed robbery is an unlawful order. Hello? All right? So, again, Matthew 6:24, you cannot serve Mammon and Yahuwah. Okay? You cannot partake of the table of devils and the table of Yahuwah. Follow the word. Follow Yahushua. And seek him now and follow him, because the days are dark and judgment is on the horizon. Thank you for listening.